In our episodes, we discuss cases and topics that might be distressing or disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I just wanted to say up front, for a little bit here, I'm going to be going to doing a new episode every other week. I just have a couple things that came up, and it's taking a little bit more of my time. I meant to say that during my last episode that I would be doing that, so I forgot, but that's why I did not release an episode last week. But this week, I wanted to put out another episode, not looking at Mike DeBardelibin, like we have been for the last few episodes. I will have an episode on some of his alleged surviving victims in 2 weeks. But first, I want to give an update on a case that I have talked about before, and it's one that I have already provided one update on, but I wanted to catch everybody up on what's been going on with it. And that case is regarding the 1979 death of 3-year-old Keara Coshow from Red Oak, Iowa. Now, I will link my original episode on this case in the description, but I'm going to put in just literally copy paste my quick synopsis of the case that I had in my last episode. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here in case you're unfamiliar with the details. And it's going to go over just the circumstances surrounding her death, the investigation into it, and also some questions that I had recently. And after that, I will dive right in with what we know now. On July 12th, 1979, a fire broke out at the Hill Top Motel in Red Oak, Iowa. When first responders got to the scene, they contained the fire, which was located in the laundry room of the motel. But after the fire was contained, they recovered the body of 3-year-old Keara Coshow, who was pronounced dead at the scene. According to Keara Coshow, who worked at the motel and who was the stepmother of Keara, she had been cleaning rooms and watching Keara at the same time. Keara said at a certain point she walked to go get a key to a room she needed to clean and saw Keara playing by the laundry room door. When she returned, she said the door to the laundry room was closed and that Keara was not there. Keara said she went to the laundry room to grab towels she needed for the room she was about to clean, but when she opened the door, she was met with intense smoke, heat, and flames. She said she then ran to call the fire department. In the laundry room, which sustained extensive damage, next to Keara's body was an opened 1-gallon container of paint thinner. The lid was found on the floor a few inches from her body, and a pile of linens were beside the body. And the original investigation report says, quote, "A pile of linens that had been beside the body was picked up and an odor similar to that of the product in the can was very noticeable in these linens." Now, investigators in 1979 ultimately ruled the fire as accidental and Keara's death as accidental. The summary of the original 1979 investigation report says, quote, "Based on the information contained in this report, it is the opinion of this agent that Keara Coshow was playing in the laundry room with the can of paint thinner and either poured or spilled it on herself, the floor, and the pile of linens nearby. The fumes from this liquid ignited, probably by the open flame in the water heater, although there were other possible sources of ignition present. This agent can find no reason to believe her death to be other than accidental." Keara's death certificate listed her cause of death as, quote, "neurogenic shock from burns to the entire body," and lists the death as accidental. So, even at the time of the death, this was kind of a controversial ruling because it was known among investigators and the county medical examiner. And it's noted in the original 1979 investigation report that there were suspicions that Keara and at least one of her siblings were being abused by Karen, their stepmother. In the investigation report, it says, quote, "Dr. Redmond Smith, the county medical examiner, was present and related incidents of alleged child abuse that had been inflicted upon Keara and her sister, presumably by the mother. One of these incidents that Dr. Smith believed was suspicious was just months before the fire. Keara had suffered an eye injury, which was the result of, quote, her eyes coming in contact with a mixture of water and Drano. The details of this incident were not given at the time, but this incident left Keara nearly blind. So there were suspicions of the ruling because of the alleged child abuse. There were suspicions because she's 3 years old and nearly blind, but somehow got a gallon of paint thinner, opened it, dumped it everywhere, causing the room to explode. But even more suspicious, Keara's older sister, who was 5 years old at the time of the fire, said she saw Karen shake Keara so violently the day before the fire that it caused Keara to go limp. Additionally, Jody Ewing, the founder of IowaColdCases.org, and who was involved with the creation of the new Iowa Cold Cases Unit, wrote on her summary of this case that Keara's autopsy report indicated she had suffered an acute spinal cord injury prior to the fire. And if Keara had a spinal cord injury leaving her immobile, she obviously would not have been able to dump the paint thinner everywhere. But I want to preface this. Obviously, this is a story being relayed by someone saying what they recall from when they were 5 years old. And this isn't to say that I don't believe them. I have spoken with this sibling before, but people's memories are often not accurate. Additionally, I haven't seen anywhere outside of Jody Ewing's reporting that Keara for sure had a spinal cord injury. And this is where things are unclear to me. I have not seen the autopsy report, so I can't verify this. But the death certificate does not mention a spinal cord injury, and the investigation report does not mention a spinal cord injury. On Jody Ewing's website, and in her write-up, she has a paragraph that states, quote, the fully burned body made it difficult for Dr. P.C. Ramon Jr. of Atlantic to come to satisfactory conclusions with an X-ray of Keara's body. The X-ray found no evidence of regular broken bones, but did find fractures in the spinal cord. Ramon also stated that the rib cage X-ray was not satisfactory to exclude the possibility of fracture. So that's what Jody Ewing's website says. The 1979 investigation report has similar language but says, quote, the X-ray found no evidence of broken bones, although the rib cage X-ray was not satisfactory to exclude the possibility of fracture. So the sentence Jody Ewing has in her paragraph stating, quote, but did find fractures in the spinal cord is not present in the 1979 investigation report that I have. Is that present in the autopsy report? Possibly, but I don't have access to that. Jody Ewing also says that the cause of death on the death certificate being, quote, neurogenic shock from burns to the entire body proves that Keara would have been immobile because based on her research, neurogenic shock, quote, refers to severe autonomic dysfunction and interruption of sympathetic nervous system control and acute spinal cord injury above the 6th thoracic vertebra. So based on her research, neurogenic shock is the result of a spinal cord injury, meaning Keara would have been immobile during the fire. And look, I am not anywhere close to being even a little bit knowledgeable in this, but my quick Googling shows me that, yes, spinal cord injury is the most likely cause of neurogenic shock. But I also saw research showing you can go into neurogenic shock from fires. An NIH article, which I'll link, says, in the vast majority of immediate fire deaths, the mechanism of death is inhalation of toxic gases, direct thermal injury, or neurogenic shock due to the redistribution of the body's blood volume produced by surface heat on the skin. This matches what the death certificate says when it's saying, quote, neurogenic shock from burns to the entire body. So there's this question about whether Keara had a spinal cord injury before the fire. Based on the suspicions that Keara and her sibling had been abused by Karen, and based on the siblings' recollection of Karen shaking Keara, I could definitely see this being the case. And I wish that the report would have put more weight into considering this. They say, though, that, quote, although there was a history of child abuse and or neglect involving Keara, this agent could find no reason to believe her death to be other than accidental. It also says in relation to abuse, it says, quote, "There may have been some neglect in the supervision of a nearly blind child and also violation of fire safety codes in storing flammable liquids in a laundry room, but there was no apparent evidence of criminal intent or neglect." So they took the child abuse suspicions into consideration, but ultimately ruled it to be accidental. And based on the wording of that last paragraph I just read, it doesn't sound like they believed there was enough to even charge Karen with some sort of like criminal child neglect. So it's ruled as accidental. In 2007, at the request of Keara's aunt, who has since passed away, the investigation was reopened and looked at again. And it was reopened because Keara's aunt suspected that Keara died at the hands of Karen because of the allegations of child abuse. In 2010, though, based on records I received from a request I put in 2024 to the Iowa Department of Public Safety and the Division of Criminal Investigation, they closed the case again in 2010 with the same conclusion. It was an accident. The records I received specifically say, quote, "In April of 2007, the DCI was contacted and asked to reopen the case due to suspicions by the victim's aunt. The case was reopened and an investigation was completed. The information received from the investigation was reviewed with the county attorney, and the findings were consistent with the original ruling as accidental. I respectfully request that this case be closed." So I bring up a couple things in going through this case, right? I do think this case is suspicious. There's obviously the allegations of child abuse. There's the recollection from Keara's sibling that Karen had shaken Keara so violently the day before that her body was limp. And there are people like Jody Ewing who suspect that she had a spinal cord injury, likely from the belief that Karen had shaken her the day before, that would have left her immobile. I am also bringing this up that they ruled the case as accidental. They ruled the fire as being accidental in 1979. They ruled her death to be accidental in 1979. And even when they reopened it in 2007 to reinvestigate it, they came to the same conclusions. Do I agree with those conclusions? No, not really, just based on the limited information that I have. But that's kind of where we're at. So fast forward to 2025, and the Iowa Cold Case Unit and Attorney General's Office has released a deck of Iowa cold case cards, which is great. I love this. But I was scrolling through, and what do I see? A card with Keara Coshow's face. And it says, quote, "Unsolved homicide." It says, quote, "July 12th, 1979. 3-year-old Coshow died at the Hill Top Motel in Red Oak. Coshow was in the motel laundry room when it exploded. The fire was ruled arson. An autopsy revealed the child had an acute spinal cord injury prior to the fire." So, hold up. This case, based on records I received in just 2024, says this case was ruled accidental, as, the last time being in 2010. But now it's listed as an unsolved homicide on the deck of cards. And it does say that she suffered an acute spinal cord injury, which they say was based on the autopsy report. And again, I would love to see this for myself. But what it also says was, quote, "The fire was ruled arson." It was absolutely not ruled arson in any of the records I saw or in any of the reporting. So I'm left with a few questions. One, was there a major change in this case? Because that would be fantastic news, I think, if it had been reopened and was now considered to be suspicious. Because to me, there are definitely things about this case that are quite suspicious. That's why in my original episode on this, I labeled it a suspicious death. Or was this an error? Okay, so that was the update and the questions that I had when I found this cold case deck and saw that Keara's card was there. It was obviously a little confusing, and what I really just wanted was some clarification, because if they had reopened this case and they did classify it as a homicide, that's obviously something I wanted to share. with everyone. I wanted to be able to, relabel my episodes so that everything was correct. And so I sent an email to the Attorney General's office and the Iowa Cold Case Unit, who are all kind of in the same office and who are the people who issued out these cold case cards. And let me just read my email. I said, "Good morning. I was looking through the cold case playing card deck posted on the Iowa Attorney General's website earlier this year, and I noticed that the 1979 death of 3-year-old Keara Coshow was listed as a homicide, and that an autopsy, quote, revealed the child had an acute spinal cord injury before the fire. I requested records relating to this case in February of 2024 from the Iowa Department of Public Safety, and what I received back, which I attached, indicated this case was closed and ruled as accidental in 2010. Can you confirm if this case is still open and considered to be a homicide, or if it was in fact closed and considered to be accidental?" So that is the question that I sent them. Pretty simple. I just kind of wanted a quick update. Now, I sent that email on November 4th, and then on November 10th of last year, I got a missed call and a voicemail.
Hi, Rebecca. My name is Chad Lovig. I'm an investigator with the Iowa Cold Case Unit. You had reached out to us last week inquiring about a case involving a Keara Coshow, who's currently featured on our playing cards for cold cases. If you want to give me a call back, I can talk to you a little bit further about that.
So I was not expecting them to call me at all. I thought it was just going to be a quick email, like clarifying and answering that quick question. But no. So I called them back and I had a conversation with Chad, who was an investigator with the cold case unit. And he was very transparent. It was a little awkward. He was kind of asking like, "So how did you get involved with this case?" And I was like, I just do research into Iowa cases, blah, blah, blah. And, but he was really transparent. He said that they don't know why there's a discrepancy. He said they went and double checked and that, yes, state records do say that the case was closed and labeled as accidental. And they don't know why this mistake was made, but they kind of want to track it down. So I don't think that they're just gonna go with what the state records say. I think that they want to kind of relook at it and come to their own conclusion, which I think is great because it is a very suspicious case in my opinion. So I'm happy that they are looking into it again. And that's kind of the biggest update here is that this case, I don't know if they're technically considering it to be reopened, but at least for the last few months, they said that they have been looking into it again, at least to get to the bottom of why there's a discrepancy and to kind of see what the ground truth is here. So I want to put this out to anyone, right? Anyone, everyone, if you have any information on this case, if you know anything, if you've had any interactions with Keara's stepmother, who is still a member of the community she lives in Iowa, please send an email to the Iowa Cold Case Unit. I have talked to Keara's sister who had that memory of Karen shaking her sister, and I told her, I've talked with her on social media, and I've told her if you have any information, if you want to talk to someone about this again, now is the time to do it. So I'm really hoping that they get to speak with her again and that this case gets the look it deserves because it's a really suspicious case in my opinion. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. I will link all of their information in the description. And once again, if there are any updates on this case, I will let you all know. If you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, there's no better place to begin than with Buzzsprout. It's the platform I use, and it makes publishing, promoting, and tracking your episodes so easy, even if you're not tech savvy. Plus, they help you get listed in all the major directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And here's the best part. When you sign up for a paid Buzzsprout plan using my affiliate link, you'll get $20 off and you'll be supporting the show at the same time. Just head to the description of this episode to find the affiliate link. Now, let's get back to the episode.